Christmas always falls on December 25th, but Easter moves around. Why? Because the Christian year is not just a calendar of holidays. It's a way of telling time through the life of Jesus Christ, his birth, death, resurrection, and promise of his return. This sacred pattern is called the liturgical year. The first season of the liturgical year is Advent. It begins 4 Sundays before Christmas Day. In this season, we remember God's promises as we prepare for the birth of Jesus and anticipate his second coming. The Christmas season begins on December 25th and ends on January 6th. These dates are linked to an early tradition found in the Talmud that righteous men die on the day they were conceived. For Christians, Christ's life from conception to resurrection forms a unified story of salvation. In some Annunciation scenes, that idea appears as the image of an infant holding a cross. Christ's crucifixion fell on 14 Nisan in the Hebrew calendar, which was April 6 in the Greek calendar and March 25th in the Roman calendar. 9 months later, December 25th and January 6th mark the beginning and end of the 12 days of Christmas. January 6th came to be celebrated as Epiphany, the day linked with the Magi's visit to the Christ child. The Sundays that follow Epiphany are numbered or ordered, which is why this season is called Ordinary Time. It ends the day before Ash Wednesday and lasts 4 to 8 weeks, depending on when Easter falls. Historically known as Epiphanytide, this season focuses on the revelation of Christ as the Messiah through his baptism, miracles, teachings, and transfiguration. Ash Wednesday begins the Lenten season. It is a day for us to reflect on our mortality, symbolized by ashes placed on the forehead with the words, "You are dust, and to dust you will return." The ashes are given in the shape of a cross, reminding us that to take up your cross means following Christ in sacrifice. Over the 46 days of Lent, we prepare for Easter through discipline and self-denial, especially by fasting, prayer, and almsgiving. The traditional 40-day fast trains the heart to resist temptation and grow spiritually, following the example of Jesus, Moses, and Elijah. Holy Week is the last and most sacred week of Lent. The final 7 days begin on Palm Sunday, also called Passion Sunday, when Jesus entered Jerusalem for the Passover. The Triduum is the final 3 days and the culmination of Lent. On Maundy Thursday, Christ demonstrated servitude by washing the disciples' feet and saying, "Now that I have washed your feet, you should also wash one another's feet." Then, at this last Passover supper, Christ instituted the Eucharist by breaking bread and saying, "This is my body given for you. Do this in remembrance of me." On Friday, as an innocent man, Christ was handed over in the place of a guilty man and sentenced to death by crucifixion. We call this Good Friday because in his death, Christ became the last sacrifice for the atonement of the sins of the world. Peter writes that Jesus was put to death in the body, but made alive in the spirit. After being made alive, he went and made proclamation to the imprisoned spirits. Holy Saturday commemorates Christ's descent into the realm of the dead, where he triumphs over death and delivers the righteous souls into heaven. In the hours before dawn, Jesus rose from the dead, confirming that he is the Messiah. Easter is the most significant day of the liturgical year, and its date determines all other feasts and fasts. Early Christians and much of the world today use a form of the word Pascha, the Greek form of the Hebrew Pesach, or Passover. Before the 3rd century, Christians followed the Hebrew lunisolar calendar, and Pascha fell on the Sunday after Pesach. By the early 3rd century, a computus paschalis had been developed to determine Easter independently of the Hebrew calendar. With the spring equinox fixed at March 21st, Easter falls on the first Sunday after the full moon on the equinox. A version of this calculation in the Book of Common Prayer is still used to determine Easter Day. Eastertide lasts 50 days. It begins with the resurrection, includes the Ascension, and ends at the Pentecost. The readings move through the disciples' encounters with the risen Christ. Ascension Day celebrates Christ's return to the Father on the 40th day of Eastertide. This completes his earthly ministry, and he promises to send the Holy Spirit. This promise is fulfilled on the 50th day of Eastertide. Pentecost means 50th in Greek. On that day, the disciples were gathered together when suddenly a violent wind filled the house and tongues of fire came to rest on each of them. Filled with the Holy Spirit, they began to speak in foreign languages. Pentecost marks the beginning of the Church's worldwide mission. After Pentecost, the calendar returns to ordinary time, a season that lasts 24 to 28 weeks, depending on the date of Easter. During these 6 months, we reflect on the fullness of Jesus' teachings and works among the people. Then, at Advent, the liturgical year begins again, with a renewed focus on the life of Jesus. Year by year, the cycle repeats, deepening our understanding and enriching our faith.
Teach us to view unnumbered days right, satisfied with your morning light. Let your love and your favor rest upon us. Teach us to view unnumbered days right, satisfied with your morning light. Let your love